Hey everybody, so in today's video, I just want to give an overview of just some of the old paper manuals, the introduction to service, some of the parts catalog, just kind of go over how those work and where I got them and just kind of show what they have. Taking a look at everything I have here, I got most everything from eBay, but you can probably find some of it on Craigslist or on Facebook Marketplace if you just search. And I'll just show a couple different kind of the books I have. So there's one that you can get that's specific to your model year, your chassis. So like for me, I have an 87 300D turbo, and that number is the 124133. If you have the station wagon version of it, that's the 193. Yeah, this book has a pretty good overview of the car in general. So going over the engine, the chassis, the body, special tools you might need. Yeah, like for example here you can see where the VIN is captured on the car. So on the back side of there you'll find, yeah, so there's like where the sticker is. Usually on the bumper there's a sticker. Notes about the suspension. So here the engine. This has the OM603. One of the things I found really handy about this when I was coming through and fixing things on the car was the documentation here for the vacuum lines. And so this is here in that intro to service, and it's pretty comprehensive. So you can see how everything goes to the injection pump. You can see how everything's routed with your EGR and to the turbo. So this is really helpful just because over time, there was fittings that were rotted or loose and also lines that were broken. So getting this all back to spec was really helpful to have this manual. And so just to make it easier, I just photocopy that page and I carry it with me outside. There's also, yeah, electronic diagrams. So a lot of really good stuff about just your particular model of car. Oh yeah, even going over testing procedures. So if you need to test EGR vacuum, they have a procedure here. Yeah, overall pretty good one. Then there's the chassis and body manuals. And so I have these for the 124 and for the 126. And when you see these are basically broken up into groups. And these groups are pretty universal for all Mercedes. So suspension is always going to be 32, front axle 33, drive shaft 41, steering system 46, electrical system 54. So if you keep those group numbers in mind, that's always going to be really important whether you're looking at parts or looking at jobs. So the first one, 00, they always just have a pretty cool how to use the manual kind of thing. So yeah, and also just where the VIN number is. They kind of repeat the same information for that 00 section. But there is some specific info here, like some technical specs that's kind of cool. But yeah, as you get into the jobs here, so yeah, non-formatic, and it kind of just has an overview of the job, and then it gets into the actual steps. So it tells you here's the special tools, and then here's the actual steps that you go into, and then it's got the pictures and everything like that. So I use these all the time. it can be tricky sometimes finding the right job. So like you would have to know that like your ignition, if you need to take the ignition out, it's also a steering lock, right? So if you know that, then you'll know, okay, maybe it's in section 46, group 46. So if you thumb through here, and the numbers are down at the bottom, you get to 46, you can see the different items here. So they have checking the steering components, the linkages, and then here, steering lock. So that's where you can get into here, job 640. So just kind of go through here a little bit. And then finally, here you go, steering lock. And yeah, basically the ignition and the steering lock, it's all one piece. So that's how you would have to know that. And so then it gets you into all the steps. It'll also tell you if there's steps that you need to do first. So really helpful. There's also specialized manuals. So here, this has to do basically with group 83. Group 83 is the air conditioning, HVAC. So you'll see in this one, it's only got group 83. And this one here is specific to the 124. So when I went through and did the dash on my car and I needed to replace all of the vacuum pods, this is basically where I came. I wanted to see all the components and just make sure I could replace as many things as I could or test as many things as I could. And so in the video I have, you can see there's this strip here that's like a vacuum block, and that's where I would attach my vacuum tester and then just use the pump to test it out, verify it. And then yeah, Y19, that was like for the heater, that's the mono valve. So there's actually like a rubber seal in there. When I got the car, I went through that and opened it up, replaced the rubber seal. That got me in much better shape. Yeah, and this goes into really a lot of specifics. So like if you're actually hooking up a voltage tester, you can see when you push the buttons what the voltage is that you should be seeing. So this covers all of that. Covers basically some basics on the compressor, how it works. You know, there's a speed sensor, so it's checking with the pulley when the clutch is engaged. It'll kind of go over just some of how that stuff works. Some of the other kind of manuals you can have here are the engine manuals. And so this here is the 104, which is an inline 6 gasoline engine. Definitely like that engine. And these always have group numbers 1 through, usually through like probably, 22. But you know, there are some fuel specific parts, there's some exhaust specific parts, so this will go into those too. And here's the second one I have. So this is for the OM602, OM603, which is the 5-cylinder, 6-cylinder diesel engine. And so this book is much thicker, but I love it because they include all the special tools, and most of the time you don't necessarily need it. Like here they're talking about a Mercedes torque wrench. You could just use your own, but there are definitely tools you would need if you are going to mess with the timing, where you want to lock the timing. You know, it's going to have those special tools in here. This will also go over the types of different types of cars that the engine goes into. So the OM603, it definitely went into a couple different cars like the 126, the 124. So as you go through it, they'll have steps that are specific for that chassis as you're going through. Also, it has the torque. So when you go to torque everything down, it'll have what that should be. If you are looking at testing pressures, like fuel pressures, they have that information captured in here too. Yeah, see here's the model 126. which, you know, I have one of those with the OM603 turbo. There's model 201, that's the C class, and then the model 124, which I also have one of those too. Another really handy one is the ETM, the electronic troubleshooting manual. So I have this for both my 300D and for the 300 SDL. This is the 126, this is the 124. And so basically any circuit in the car is captured in here. So you can trace every wire in your car. And you do have to know how to read this, but you can basically work out through the wiring where everything's going, and then what color the wires are supposed to be, that's also captured here too. Like GY is gray, I think BU is blue, so gray, blue, that's gonna be a mixed color wire. Yeah, so like antenna wiring, I definitely got into here when I was replacing the antenna on my car. So these are super helpful. And then the last kind of book that I have that's technical at least is the technical data for models here. So I have one for 1988 and one for 1987. And this pretty much just has any kind of technical information that you would be interested in the cars. So for those model year cars, this has tightening torques for everything. So there's a whole section of just, you know, and it's by the same group numbers. So as you go through, like 01 would be, looks like the head, I think. So yeah, 03. So it's basically got all your torques. So if you need to just have one thing handy, you can have this with you. And then that's why I got so many things in here. For when I go to do the jobs, I just bookmark the page I need, and then I know what to tighten it down to with my torque wrench. And then last, I have the parts catalog. So these are definitely old school. This is not anything that, actually none of this stuff is really, there's electronic versions of all of this stuff. But I like having the physical manuals. And so here, this is specifically for these model cars, which include the 300D Turbo, which is what I have. And so when you go through here, this is also where the group numbers come in very, very handy. So yeah, you can see I've kind of written down the group numbers or the part numbers as I've discovered some of these. So the ones at the beginning here are the OM603 engine part numbers. So there, and then, yeah, it just kind of has an arbitrary numbering system. So if you wanted to actually figure out what those are, what you can do is look here, and it tells you, you know, this is either Microfiche. Doesn't really matter. People say either way, but there's the Microfiche number. And so I actually have those. So let's take a look. Each of these is one of those Microfiche, which is like a plastic slide. And so if I go here, here's the OM603, and then 0587. Yep, there's that 0587, so I know that's the right one. And then I can see here, this was last revised February 1997. This one, yeah, February 97, so, yep. So we can check those out, and I actually have a reader that we can pop it into. So I just plugged in the electrical wire, has an AC adapter, and for this particular unit, it's down here at the bottom. And this is where it's stored when you're not using it. Yeah, so it just tucks right in there. You could also be hooking up a 6-volt battery. So that way if you need to take this with you, portable, no problem. There's the connectors. And how this works, you just slide this piece over, pull this back, You can pull the screen forward. I'm gonna go ahead and hold that and then tilt this back. There we go. So it's just all folds up in there. And then what the electrical for is for the lamp. So basically there's just a lens in here, and I can pull this out. Okay, film for the 603. And I believe for this reader, you need to put it in face first and then upside down. So I'm gonna go ahead and slide that in. Okay. Okay, there we go. And you kind of use this to move left, right. And so I think they typically have the information. Yeah, here we go, like right here. So if you had it flipped over the right way and you're looking at it, it'd be on the top left, but since I have it upside down, it looks like it's the top right. I'm gonna use this adjustment to clear up the text. Let's see if the camera is good enough to catch that. Yeah, I think you can see that. So yeah, there we go. So February 1997, and it's just got a preamble saying you're not supposed to reproduce this in any way. So, and then they go into the groups. So at this point, you can see the group number 1. And if I look at what that picture had on it, like 190, I can go down here and then find 190, and then their spring washer. And then they have basically per type of engine, so the OM603960, which is what I have in my 300D, you can kind of go down and then see how many it's supposed to have. That's the quantity per model. And yeah, if just in case you forget, it tells you the group number. And so basically it kind of goes like in order like this, and then you have to keep moving over. So if I go to the next diagram after this page, I'm still in group 1, subgroup 45. Yeah, it's a little tricky to kind of keep these lined up. But yeah, this is something I went through recently to get parts for a head. I have a previous video where I'm rebuilding a head, and there's definitely parts where I needed to get new washers, new hardware. You know, this is pretty cool. You can do this. Yeah, then there's the actual parts. Yeah, so that's basically how to use this Microfiche reader. And some people, like if they're doing this full time, you would have a bigger one. This is great for me, but it's not only parts information that can go on these. So there are definitely dealerships would have all of these service manuals. All of these service manuals, you can get them all on the Microfiche also. Not just for the newer model cars, but probably up into the 2000s. When I go through and look, and you see the different chassis numbers. So, you know, got some older ones here, 114, 116, that's one of the first S classes. 123 is the E class. So let's just keep going. And some of the color-coded ones start to become some of the newer cars. So this is kind of like the later model W124s. All right, let's try the next page. So here Yeah, we get into the R129, which ran all the way until 2002. We have the C140 and then the W140. Those went all the way through 1999. R170, that's the SLK. And here's the first C class is the 201. Here's some of the older C classes. And it tells you typically the group numbers that are on each one. And then sometimes it will have, yeah, here it is, up to 88. So then you can use the other ones for the other part numbers. And yeah, I was really surprised though. This even has basically the 208, the 210, the W220, which ran all the way to 2006. And so some of these that I got in this little set on eBay were, yeah, pretty relatively recent. I think there's some that even go into the year 2000. Having these books does take a good amount of physical space though. So you can see here, I got the Microfiche, I got all the books just on my bookshelf. Got some programming stuff too. I mean, that's what I do day to day, but it definitely does take some space. There's definitely options on the computer. So here I got VirtualBox pulled up, and this is, I'm running Windows, and basically you can find this available on different websites, but I have the EPC, the Electronic Parts Catalog. And now, I mean, this is pretty old stuff. This is not really the live system anymore, but I have this in a Windows XP virtual machine. So once this thing gets booted up, you can open it up, check it out, and they have basically electronic version of a lot of those documents that I was just showing off. Okay, so when you get into it, you can launch into EPC. This definitely takes a little while to load. All right, and then up here you can put in your VIN number. So I'll do that. All right, got that entered. Hit enter. So you can see here it pulled up my car. This is the 124133. And then just like the physical books, you can see the groups where it breaks down by group number. And so, yeah, engine parts, they kind of put those in here. So this would be like your OM603. Yep, diesel engine with turbocharger, so that's the one. And then you can see here, there's different groups. This is basically the ones I had in the Microfiche when I was looking at those. So you can pull up those slides and check out all the pieces. They basically have the equivalent of it right here. And this is just a lot easier to use than a Microfiche. And then you can click them, and then it's over here, it's going to tell you the part number. So this is definitely a good solution, and this is pretty old at this point. I mean, I'm running this on a Windows XP virtual machine, so it's not really something that's supported anymore. There's also service CDs you can get, like this one here, and I haven't really launched into it to use the CD, but when you go and load it up and copy the files off of it, it's got pretty much like this one here has all the service manuals for the W124 in PDF format. In 2025, just going through the stuff on the CD doesn't really work like it should. Like, it's supposed to be launching and loading some of this HTML, and it's using Shockwave Flash. You know, this stuff is not going to really work anymore. So you can navigate through here and get the actual PDFs off of here. So yeah, like under chassis, and then here you can see here's all the PDFs, and like I showed before, the group numbers starting with 32. So yeah, you can get all of these, and so the one we looked at I think was 46. So if I just pull some of these ones up, this is basically a PDF version of what we were looking at in the physical manual. So you can print this out, you can just keep it on your computer, whatever you want to do. Definitely helpful when you're doing a job. The replacement that you're supposed to use is this site. I think this is B2B Connect.Mercedes. So they have a whole package for your business. If you're basically a Mercedes shop, you can come on here. They want you to sign up and pay for this tool, and they have examples of it. There's the different systems that you can get into. So they're stuff with the multiplexer and the computers. That's Zentry. They have their Zentry parts information. That's the replacement for EPC. And so if you actually go and get more info, they have their frequently asked questions. And so this is where you could actually sign up for it. And if you go to the top here, there's a register button, and you could put your business info in. So this is what you would do if you didn't have the physical manuals, or you didn't use an old VM that's just on the internet with EPC. So that's it for this video. Thanks a lot for watching it, checking it out, all the different formats you can get the stuff on. Like I said, you can go and search eBay for those books. You can search your local marketplace like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. There's a lot of folks that are retiring selling those books, or they just don't want the space. They'd rather use the computer stuff, so you can get those a lot of times cheap. And the virtual machine one, I can't really go into that, but if you just search, there's a lot of information about that. If you're into using the technical ones, I would probably just look at that subscription. I think you can get like a by the day subscription to that B2B solution. So I've done that in the past with the old system. EPC used to be free, and it didn't need a VM when it was, the 2010s. So yeah, well, thanks again for watching, and see you next time.